MATLAB is a very extensive programming platform. There's a lot available and accessible in MATLAB. There's no way we can cover everything that MATLAB contains. And what MATLAB does contain is a whole list of user-defined functions. So I want to go over some basic ways that you can figure out ways to get help in MATLAB. So the first way is to use the help icon on the home tab. So it pops up a little window. You can explicitly search the documentation in here. Let's say I want to look up how to do random numbers. So you look and see, okay, how do I create an array of random numbers? So here's some nice examples that you can use. It goes over, there's lots of examples. At the bottom, you also say see also, which tells you is really useful. It tells you the different functions you can use in order to do something similar. So I use rand I a lot, and I can look up this function to see, oh, okay, there's one output. This is the name of my function, and these are the inputs. I can either have one input, two inputs, lots of inputs. So there's lots of ways that you can use most MATLAB functions. If I wanted to look up the sine function, which is a little more simplistic, here we go. Here's the documentation for sine. Here is how to use it. Usually in the documentation, there's really useful examples, so make use of those. But it tells you lots of different functions that you can use. So that's the first way that you can get help in MATLAB. The second way is if you have some code that someone else wrote that you're trying to figure out what it does. Maybe you don't know what like this function is. So I know it's a function because it's followed by open close parentheses here. So you can right click and say help on nth root. And it will open up literally how to use that function. It will open up the documentation specifically for that function, show you all of the different examples. It'll show you, here we go, see also useful functions that are similar. So that's another way to get help on a specific function. Typically, you do that if you have some code you already have and you're trying to figure out what it does. Another way you can get help specifically in the MATLAB desktop, this isn't available in MATLAB Online, but you can click this FX and you can browse through all of the functions that MATLAB has accessible. So if I'm looking for a specific function, maybe I don't know exactly what it is, I can look through, okay, mathematics, elementary math, trigonometry. I can see all of the functions associated with, let me make this bigger, associated with trigonometry that MATLAB has. So here's my standard sine ones, tan, there's lots and lots of options. You can go to other ones. So maybe you want to look more at some of your toolboxes, so statistics and machine learning toolboxes. You can look through those. Those might be useful in the future as you're figuring out how to use MATLAB for maybe research purposes or for industry or for another class. The third way you can get, or the fourth way you can get help is through something called the doc command. So if you know the name of a function, you can say doc nth root. This is going to pop up the documentation specifically for that function. Once again, you need to know the name of the function. You're not really searching for a type of function. You're looking for explicitly what is some documentation on this function. So if I tell you the max function might be useful, you can say doc max. And it would pop up the max function in MATLAB and you can read on how to use it. Another way is using the help command. So remember when we write functions, let's open my car distance function. When we write functions, we have these h1 lines and help text lines. If I say help car distance, spell it correctly, notice what prints out here don't know why that was there. What prints out here is exactly what those h1 lines and help text lines are. So it prints that out. So if I say help sine, this here is the very, very small h1 lines and help text lines for the sine function. If I say help rand I, here are the help text lines specifically for the rand I function. So it's a little bit more extensive. I use help a lot. The last thing that might be useful is the look for command. So you can say look for, and let's say you're searching for a function that begins with something. So you can say look for root. Maybe you're looking for a specific root function. So it will literally parse through all of the functions that MATLAB has access to and find all of the functions that have root in their h1 line or root in the name of their function. So here's all of the ones that have that. You notice nth root, square root. There's a couple different types of square roots. Here's the traditional one. Here's for symbolic matrix. So those are all the different ways that you can get help in MATLAB. You can use the help icon. You can use the FX dropdown to look for functions. You can right click on a function in a script file. You can use doc, help, and look for.